That was awesome worship. Just what I needed. Strangely enough, long before that last song, So Will I started thinking about the question, that riddle, the question that seems to be well known. Everybody knows it. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? See, I'm not kidding here either, because this is a conundrum, relatively new in the history of things. Because if the egg came first, how did it hatch? See, Lee and I have chickens, and I can tell you what happens with an egg that doesn't have a hen. If you don't have an incubator or something to plug in and do what a hen's supposed to do, it becomes a stink bomb, ready to blow up at the slightest touch. They will eventually get to that point where you can just touch it and it'll pop, and it is horrible. But how do you have the chicken without the egg? If there's no egg, if the egg doesn't come first, where does the bird come from? This is a question that never arose until we began to suppose, how did all this get here without God? See, because that question was answered a long, long time ago in Genesis 1:20, and God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens." There you go. I've seen eggs thrown. I've never seen them fly. Let birds fly. And it was done. So that settles that question. But there is a spiritual kind of form of the chicken and the egg question that I have pondered, and I guess really much like the chicken and the egg question that I started with, it doesn't matter. See, because the answer, whichever way you go on that first one, doesn't matter, because it presupposes the question comes out of a idea that is erroneous. God didn't do it, so let's figure out how it happened. It's the only way that question happens. Well, there's another question, spiritual question. Do we, as those who believe, send a message to the world that they can't be tolerated and they can't be accepted, and they better get their act cleaned up before they come? And once they come, they better keep their act cleaned up and do right. And therefore, they're scared to come. They're ashamed to come. They're too proud to come. I don't need you. Or is that attitude from the world first, maybe even from ourselves, that innate understanding from the first time you looked at a sunset or an eclipse with a shooting star at the same time, or whatever it was that made you go, wow, that's awesome, and I am not worthy to hang out with whoever did that? Because that is an innate understanding. Did that come first? And it's just something that kind of hangs on like some of our other stuff as we go through the sanctification process and needs to be weeded out, that some of us are able to get past it and come anyway. See, it's a weird kind of thing, which comes first, because it's a cycle. You believe it before you come, and then part of us still believes it afterwards. We really do. We like to say we don't, but we do. We believe it every time we look at the world and go, you're not good enough. Shame on you. You need to stop doing this and this and this and this. Get your morals right. It just makes us idiots, because to expect a heathen to do anything but behave like a heathen is foolishness. And then we look at ourselves and we go, oh goodness, I'm not good enough either. I'm not enough. I need to buckle down and do this and this and this and this. I need to get it right so that I can go to Daddy. I need to clean up as much of this mess as I can before I go ask him to help me with the rest of it. And we start in practice believing in an intolerant and unaccepting God that's waiting for us to step out of line so he can punish us instead of someone that we can run to. Do we believe what we've sung today? Do we believe that we are pursued and chased by goodness and mercy and love and kindness? Do we believe that he really is for us and with us? That there is no hesitation in his love and affection. See, because that question, like the first question, comes from an erroneous place, an understanding that is false, that Christianity is about getting your life right and living right so that you can be acceptable to God. And we try to do that because we've bought the lie. Just throw out the lie and the question goes away. We were all standing, waiting for death to obliterate us. And the one single being in the entire everything that could escape that stepped in front of it and took the hit so that you don't have to, so that I don't have to, so that whosoever doesn't have to. And whosoever is whosoever, anyone, everyone. There is no label, no category, no box that anybody has put you in or that you put yourself in that disqualifies you from whoever. It's not about age or race or sex or gender or belief or creed or anything. No matter how you were raised, no matter what you've done, no matter what's been done to you, no matter what you look like, act like, think like, if you see him calling you, come, and your response to that is, oh, thank you for calling me. I see that there is no hesitation in your love and acceptance, and I want that, and I come. You're welcome. There is nothing ever more tolerant and accepting than that. Jesus did for us what we could not do. Period. What we would never be able to do. So we need to throw out that question of good enough. That question of, is the world afraid to come because we treat them like they're not good enough? Or do we treat them like they're not good enough because we're afraid to come? And remember that, yeah, none of us are good enough, but he is, and he did it, and he gave us his righteousness, his rightness, his record. He switched his test for ours. So we got the A+, and he got the F. So good enough doesn't matter. And because of that, I don't have to try to clean my mess before I run to Daddy. And because of that, I don't need you to clean your mess before I love you. My house needs to be cleaned right now because, it's the weekend. Didn't do any housework. You know what? The Jetsons are not here. That house is not going to clean itself. It can't. So if I'm going to sit there and go, if I'm going to live in this house, it better clean itself up. I'm never going to live in this house because it can't do it. If I want to make that my home and make it a clean and acceptable home, then I have to do it. Jesus did all the work that was necessary, and then he said, I'm going away so that one can come. So that the Holy Spirit can return and make his abode in you. That's his home. He's making his home in us. We're the house. And it's as ridiculous to think that we're going to clean ourselves up as it is for me to think my house is going to clean itself up. But the Spirit says, I will come in and I will clean it up and I will restore it and I will do all the work. All I need is for it to be as submissive as that house is. I can do whatever I want to my house. It will not get in my way. That's our job. So today, let's remember what Jesus did. Let's remember that what came first was the love of God. That his love and his affection, and yes, his acceptance of us came before we even acknowledged his existence. So much so that knowing everything we would do, knowing everything that would be done to us, knowing every failure, mistake, stupidity, and rebellion that would go through our minds, our hearts, and our lives, he would still die for us so that we could have life. And he would make his home in us so that we could be restored from the inside out. Let's remember that so that we can be quick to go to Daddy and enter boldly into the throne room of grace. And so that we will be welcoming to those behind us who haven't yet walked through the door, because they need to know that they are loved as they are and not as they should be, just like you are. Instead of feeling like they have to do the impossible before they can come to Daddy. Get right. You couldn't do it. Don't ask them to. Jesus did it once for all of us. And that is awesome, awesome news that takes away all the questions that really matter. Am I loved? Why am I here? What am I going to do? And what's going to happen to me? Yes, you're loved. You are here to have relationship with the one who made you. What's going to happen is if you respond to that love, you will grow in that relationship with the one who made you, because of the one who came made it possible. And one day, all the other questions will be answered. All the suffering and sorrow will end. All the sin will be gone. And this will all be finished. And we'll look back and go, how did I ever doubt the wonder of your love for me?